What if sanctuary wasn't just a place, but a way of living? Welcome to the Sanctuary Network, your weekly home for conversations that awaken the heart, heal the body, and inspire the spirit. I'm your host, Mary Ellen Popyk, the creator of Spirit Fest and the Natural Wellness Expos. For 2 decades, I've been creating spaces, now creating a bold new broadcast for mind, body, and spirit, where seekers, healers, and teachers come together to share wisdom, laughter, and transformation. We've seen what happens when communities gather. People become enlivened. Now, through the Sanctuary Network, that same spirit is reaching you, wherever you are in the world. Each week, we'll sit down with thought leaders, authors, and everyday visionaries. We'll also shine a light on the grassroots voices of the sanctuary marketplace, the healers, vendors, and practitioners who make this movement thrive. This isn't just another show, it's your sanctuary, a space to pause, reflect, and reconnect with what matters most. So, take a deep breath, open your heart, and join me. Together, let's step into the sanctuary. Everyone, to the sanctuary for mind, body, and spirit. We've got another great show and a very special guest with us this week. And I cannot wait to talk about all the different things that I have for, she is the real deal, you guys. Lori Spagna, welcome, Lori. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited about our time and about this weekend.
Yes, Spirit Fest Sarasota. Lori's going to be our special guest, and it's one of our bigger shows of the year too, so it's going to be fun. But Lori is an author, speaker, a teacher, Ascension guide, multidimensional channel, intuitive, animal communicator, energy healer, light worker, visionary, and luminary. And I first saw you at the Conscious Life. They used to film it. It was on the Gaia channel.
Yeah.
And this was before 2000, I think. It was a while ago. And I was really, so when we would talk about guests that we wanted to have at our show, we would just sit at the end of the show. Sometimes we even would write on napkins who we wanted to have at our shows, and you were on that list. So that's why I'm so excited that you're going to be with
That's
us.
so sweet.
But I was just really impressed by, and again, this was pre-pandemic, so this was kind of a different time, and I feel like almost it was a different world now. But really helping people to ascend, for people to get in touch with their divine light, to connect with spirit in a way and realize that we can do anything, that we are everything, and God is within all of us. So before we get into a lot more, tell me how you got started on this path. Was this something that you had from when you were young?
Yeah. Well, I think it was I call it's, we all have a script, like a life script. And it's not that we don't have mostly free will in that script, but there's major milestones and missions and stuff. So I think was always written in there. But the way I got on this path was, out of college, I was working in corporate America. I worked in corporate America for, close to 20 years, and I was miserable, crying every night to
Mm-hmm.
couldn't get to sleep at night. So they pharmaceutical drugs to help, couldn't wake up in the morning, thyroid was off, hair was falling out, way overweight, smoking 2 packs of cigarettes a day, drinking 6 or 8 beers a day. Like I remember when I really hit one of the bottoms was like I was drinking beer before work
No, yeah.
morning. And, I was spendaholic, sexaholic, like the whole thing, because I was so miserable. And I was like buffering or compensating, right,
Mm-hmm.
for my misery, because that wasn't what I was supposed to do. And what ended up happening was my brother died of a drug overdose.
Oh.
And I started getting messages from him. I grew
Mm-hmm.
up in New York. So the messages from him sounded like this. Hey, Law, it's your dead brother, Jeff. Like, and I don't know. I thought I was making it up. That's what you kind of think. Like it wasn't into this stuff, but that's how it started.
Mm-hmm.
And it took about a year. It wasn't just him though. Pretty quickly, I started getting messages from like dead relatives and a lot of
Mm-hmm.
famous people,
Mm-hmm.
So the overall message though was like, you need to change your ways. Like you're doing all the same things I'm doing. You're just doing it in a culturally, societally
Mm-hmm.
acceptable way.
Mm-hmm.
So I ended up like after a year of working with that, I ended up quitting corporate America with my six-figure job and my six-figure credit card debt. Like I didn't, it was like a leap in the net will appear type of thing. I don't
Mm-hmm.
necessarily recommend that to everybody. I became a dog trainer because I really loved animals. I always wanted to help animals.
Mm-hmm.
It seemed like that was a good way to start.
Mm-hmm.
And right away I started hearing the dogs. Like
Oh, uh-huh.
they just came through. And because
Mm-hmm.
I was being trained by a guy who spent 20 years working for the United States military, training service animals.
Mm-hmm.
And when he was done with his time in the military, was starting his own business and he's recruiting people and he knows he can train them. He's like, a veteran. And so he was teaching us to work with the dogs, in high kill shelters in Los Angeles. And we weren't allowed to think. We had to do it all on automatic pilot. So there was no brain activity here. Like
Mm-hmm.
I was, without even knowing, I was in a somewhat altered state. He was filming us, critiquing. So then the animals would come in, they say, you listen to us, we're going to teach you.
Wow.
That was the
Wow.
first message. I was like, it was almost like they would just it came in over and over again. You
Mm-hmm.
think you're training us? We're going
Mm.
to teach you.
Wow.
So that's where it all started. But let me
Mm-hmm.
just wrap up how it kind of started, just came into fruition was as that was happening, I started getting happier. I
Uh-huh.
started getting happier and I started realizing like I can get rid of all this old stuff. Like I don't need to smoke. I don't
Mm-hmm.
need this alcohol. I don't need these pharmaceutical drugs. I don't care about all the stuff I've accumulated with the credit card debt. So my husband wasn't into any of that. So he divorced me. He was like,
Mm.
okay, you're going a little too far off like my comfort zone. And I moved to Maui for 2 years
Oh, wow.
and I lived there for 2 years and that's where I went through really my transformation because at that point I was training dogs, doing animal communication that happened really fast. And then I got into the healing arts and
Mm.
to like all kinds of healing modalities. I started learning how to work with energy and I was starting to like really get into deep esoteric practices without even knowing.
Mm-hmm.
And I had some amazing, like really amazing master teachers helping me to understand energy.
Mm-hmm.
I ended up learning, I had a near death experience, not just everything. I had what's called the first contact. That sounds pretty out there, but like
Yeah.
teletransported on ship, that stuff really does happen. I
Uh-huh.
know it's
Yeah,
wild.
no, we're into that. So
Yeah, I get it. So we'll talk about that. But anyhow, let me
yeah.
just finalize that whole thing. Within 2 years of moving to Maui, I lived there 2 years,
Mm-hmm.
everything was gone, meaning I never smoked again. My
Wow.
angels and guides taught me how to quit smoking. I tried for 20 years. I
Mm-hmm.
couldn't quit smoking while I was
Mm-hmm.
in corporate America. Within
Mm-hmm.
2 years, I quit forever, never touched it again. Quit the
Wow.
alcohol, never touched it again. Quit all pharmaceutical drugs, have not needed a pharmaceutical or over the counter drug in over
Mm-hmm.
20 years because it's
Wow.
been 20 years since then. The credit card debt gone
Mm-hmm.
because my angels, my guides, they were telling me my higher self, I was being taught what to do because
Mm-hmm.
the new me wasn't going to have any of that. So
Right.
the debt was gone within 2 years, all of it. Yeah.
Did
Because
you have kids during this time?
no, just dogs.
I
They were
I
always
was
my
going to
kids.
say it's hard when you are married and have kids and you're going through such a spiritual, it's not impossible, but I really give credit to the people that do because
Yeah.
sometimes they might not understand or you're kind of holding energy for everybody all of the
Yes.
time. So, but
And but
the
at the same time, that's kind of like written into their script too.
right. Hmm.
Because
Yeah.
if you're really, the major milestones of your life, the really big catalyzing things and that stuff is pretty much pre-chosen.
Hmm. Right.
Some of like the ways you'll go through them, there's a lot of
Right.
navigation room.
Right.
But I really know that like that 2 year stint in Maui, I was so alone during those 2 years, other than
Hmm.
the people who I was like learning how to do things with, like
Hmm.
training and stuff. Like anyone would have thought I was insane. The little
Hmm.
contact I had with my family and with my ex-husband, they thought I was insane. There was a time when my father was like, I want you to go back and see your doctor.
No, I can
Yeah.
completely relate. And I know
Because it
there's a
is.
lot of people listening that can really
Yeah.
relate to this too.
Yeah.
There's a thin line between enlightenment and delusion.
Yes.
And a
Yes.
lot of
You
times
ha
people just don't really understand. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that you said that, Mary Ellen, because it requires a lot of integration.
Hmm.
And we sort of, like, I think most humans, we have this thing sort of written into our belief system that
Hmm.
somehow, like, healing or enlightenment happens after sitting under a tree and suddenly, or like some, preacher, minister, religious person lays their hands on you, and in 30
Hmm.
seconds, you're standing and, freed and from your wheelchair. That's
Right.
not how it works. Not really.
Right. You're not the first person that I've heard that learned to channel or to be a medium after loved ones have passed either.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
certainly not something that we would have chosen. But then when you look at that, you think, could that have been a soul agreement?
Oh, for
Um,
sure.
yeah.
For sure.
Hmm.
From my perspective, anyhow,
Hmm.
my brother's transition was 100% on purpose. Like, I believe that every death is a suicide, ultimately, that
Hmm.
the soul is making a choice on some level,
Hmm.
and that death, most likely, if there's so many loved ones, behind who are, going to be affected by that death, especially if
Right.
it's some form of like premature or
Right.
accidental. That's going to have a domino effect. It's going to be a catalyzing force for some form of transformation.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
So when you were in Maui, that's like one of the Earth's chakras there.
Yeah.
So what was that like? Can you compare that energy to any place in the United States? I mean, in the mainland?
Fascinatingly enough, Sarasota is a
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Stargate, right?
It is.
So
Yeah.
so Maui is there are multiple Stargates.
Hmm.
Maui's a Stargate,
Hmm.
the Hawaiian Islands. Um, of course, Sarasota, Florida, where we're going to have
Hmm. Yep.
the
Yep. Spirit
conference,
Fest next weekend, right?
Spirit Fest. And then also there's other Stargates, and we can Uluru's one,
Hmm.
Lake Titicaca is another one,
Hmm.
and fascinatingly, this is really, if you want to really dive in here, one of the biggest Stargates and the last remaining Stargate that has not been fully freed and liberated is in the Middle East.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So Stargates need to be liberated
Hmm.
of what we would call, like what we could call dark overlords.
Hmm.
We're really
Hmm.
out there jumping right in here.
Hmm.
But when a Stargate is liberated, that's when Christ consciousness can flow through. And
Yes.
that's what we need on Earth. Once, because when a Stargate's not liberated, it's basically being, when we say controlled, the Christ consciousness, which is not about religion
Hmm.
necessarily.
Hmm.
No.
Yep.
It's really that crystalline divine source, open
Yep.
source, direct connection with the original source, the divine,
Hmm.
that it can flow in and through all of Earth, every human, all the grids of Earth, which are basically anchor points around
Right.
Earth to allow like mass consciousness to, like,
Right.
that's what you call the 100th monkey. It's done.
Yeah.
Mass awakening. So that's what that war is about. It's really fighting over that Stargate. I know people don't really realize that. They
Yeah.
don't necessarily know, but yeah, I mean, we can go more into this kind of thing, but in any case,
My
yeah.
understanding of when in the Bible it talked about the resurrected Jesus was in a room and the Holy Spirit descended upon the room and they all got quiet, is what the Bible verse said. And I really wanted to know what happened. What is the Holy Spirit? That's what I'm very literal. And
Mm,
so, every miracle, there's some type of scientific or explanation
mhm.
about what it is. And what I was shown, and it was really funny because somebody else had the same dream almost the same time, that we're friends, but we're not even that deeply connected. So I knew that that was true, but that the resurrected Jesus was able to hold that amount of divine light. And it was the first time that that much of the energy had been there. Because if it were to just all of a sudden come, and the lights were to go on, it would, fry some of our circuitry.
Yes, for sure, for
It would
sure.
really scare people. And so that was the first time that they were able to actually feel that and hold that. And that's one of the reasons I love these events where we all get together,
Yes.
because that's what we're all doing. We're holding that energy together collectively, being in our hearts. And you just came from the New Living Expo this past
Yes.
weekend, which I understand
Yeah.
was really good.
Yeah, it was
Um,
awesome.
yeah, out in it's San Rafael, right? But it's right near San Francisco.
Yes, just north
Yeah.
of. Yeah.
Yeah. And events like that, they're going to be, 150 booths, and you're going to have like 50 amazing speakers. It's really a conference type of a thing. They're really, really great. But it's amazing. And that's what Spirit Fest is kind of a medium venue, I think. And because you could pretty much get through it in a day, you don't really want to. Some people come and they stay all day, both days.
Hmm.
But just there's nothing that takes the place of being together. So
Yeah.
it's great that we can do all of this
Yeah.
online, but just being
Well,
together, there's definitely something
yeah.
to it.
Well, let me say a couple things about that. First, from what I know, and we can channel this, we can ask in a
Hmm.
channel state. Because that's how I get access to most of my information, direct source connection. But to me, the Holy Spirit is the energetic frequency, the energy, the consciousness that is so pure. It is the
Hmm.
divine. It is source.
Yes.
It is creator. It is God.
Yep.
We may use different words for that.
Hmm.
Some people use the name Holy Spirit. Some people use God, Jesus, Yeshua, Buddha, Krishna,
Hmm.
Allah. Like there's all kinds of, based on what we've learned, but that source is the original source,
Hmm.
the spark, the flame, the infinite, the divine, that is infinite consciousness, that is omnipresent,
Hmm.
that vibrates to a frequency that is beyond human love. We call it love,
Yes.
but it's beyond human comprehension. Now, here's what's so amazing about a place like Spirit Fest, about a venue, an organization, a group, like an expo, like this, is that because it's smaller, don't get me wrong, I love the expos. When you've
Hmm.
got huge expos, people don't actually too often get that close to the
Hmm.
speakers. You don't get
Hmm.
to have the opportunity to embody. This is really the name of the game, embodiment.
Hmm.
Because
Yes.
now we're shifting, we'll talk about this, but into a new paradigm reality where we can begin to embody the divine. We can
Yes.
actually embody the Holy Spirit, if
Hmm.
you want to call it Holy Spirit, God, source, creator, the infinite, right?
Hmm.
But you see, and this is what this goes back to the Stargate. This is why it's beautiful that it's in Sarasota, like Southern Florida is a Stargate.
Hmm.
Because you see, prior to our time right now, we were operating in what's called a closed source system,
Hmm.
meaning all of the various stargates, for the most part, were blocked
Hmm.
from flowing divine source energy, Holy Spirit, source creator, God energy, the original spark, the original
Hmm.
flame of divine consciousness.
Hmm.
So, light workers, grid workers, this is going on, like, I know this community knows about this, but
Hmm.
this isn't stuff you talk about in the mainstream news. This isn't
Right.
stuff that's known in the mainstream. You have
Right.
to really do the deep
Right.
dives to start to learn about this.
Hmm.
And so grid workers, light workers, star seeds, earth seeds, whatever, however you identify, we've been crystal workers, I call this the indigo family tribes.
Hmm.
We've been working on unlocking and awakening these different stargates. And so that this Christ consciousness, this source consciousness could flow through to take us out of what's called a closed grid, a closed system. So in a closed system, all those stargates were blocked.
Hmm.
We were believing that God was somehow separate from us.
Right.
We believed that the external world had more power over us. We
Right.
believed that external authorities had power over us. The only way to access God was with an in-between,
Yes.
a priest,
Yes.
that whole thing.
Hmm. Hmm.
So now, as we're shifting to this open source,
Hmm.
we are beginning to recognize we must open ourselves for
Hmm.
this source. So how do we do
Yes.
that? You can't learn about this through the brain. It,
Right.
it, it will not work. The learning through the brain, like podcasts, help a person to understand.
Hmm.
Okay, this is starting to make sense. I trust these people. I'm listening, I'm learning. But in order to open yourself as a source, the
Hmm.
only way to do that is through
Hmm.
direct participation,
Yes.
direct engagement, direct experience. Nobody can teach your brain to do it.
Hmm.
Your brain will get in the way. Your brain will say, "How do I do it? I don't know." It's until you're led through it, you're doing it in a group experience so you can really begin to recognize this energy.
Hmm.
There's nothing like it. And the
Hmm.
more you do, because you have to open your channel.
Hmm.
Every person has to do this, and there's a number of ways we do this, but to bring this conversation full circle, you go attend Spirit Fest, you're going to learn, you're going to participate.
Yeah.
I mean, you get direct experience with amazing, fabulous teachers who have been doing this, who dedicated their lives. I mean,
Mhm.
I consider myself one of those.
Yes.
And you
Yes.
get to learn direct experience. And when you have a direct experience, nobody
Oh,
can,
right. Right. Because
nobody
it's
can tell you
almost like you didn't know what you didn't know. When you feel it, when
that.
you can actually feel it in its fullness in a way that you haven't before, you just think, wow. And then you hold that energy and then you take that out, and then other people around you are going to benefit from the energy, even if
Yes.
indirectly.
Yes.
And then and to go in fearlessly, because it is sometimes it does seem scary. It seems like
Yeah.
it's going into the unknown, even though we've had this ability all along, just like
Yeah.
Dorothy, the Wizard of
Yes.
Oz.
Well, two things on that. First, fear always stands at the door of progress.
Yeah, yeah,
Fear
you're right.
always stands in front of the next level of expansion, evolution, up-levelment. And fear has to become part of the one of those things that we recognize. Fear is just, I call it a frequency fence.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Mm.
nothing more than energy. It's not
Yeah,
real.
it's a good
It's
analogy. Yeah.
conditioning. It's energy that's been stored somewhere in the person's field or in their parts of their brain or in their
Hmm.
nervous system or in their energy field, and even in the fascia of the
Hmm.
body, right?
Yes.
It can be stored, but it's so easy to clear that out. That's part of
Yeah.
it. So that's the first thing about that. And the other thing I want to say is that aside from the fact that it might seem scary or you don't really know, it's that you're not just feeling it, it changes you.
Hmm.
It
Yes.
changes you. And what it's changing you into is the best version of you.
Hmm.
It's
Yes.
changing you into a person who starts to embody divine love,
Hmm.
divine peace, divine joy. You start to awaken your dormant capacities. So you're not walking around earth like, what am I here for? Why is life unfulfilling? I'm
Hmm.
I'm unsatisfied. That goes away because what's dormant within you starts to come through. It's the divine. See, this new paradigm is that divine wants to come, has chosen
Hmm.
through participation, collaboration with the
Hmm.
human identity
Hmm.
to participate in this game now, this game of
Hmm.
life,
Hmm.
and to bring itself, God, source creator, into this reality as the expression of God in and through each of us. So you
Yes.
start walking around like, I can't make this stuff up. It's so good. You're not
Hmm.
having to learn things. You're reclaiming when you participate in these kinds of things. You're reclaiming dormant capacities you
Hmm.
didn't even know you had. See, I
Yeah.
never learned animal communication
Hmm.
and telepathy, and yet I never learned how to speak to dead people. And yet
Hmm.
those were things, those were abilities that I had. I would call it from either, you could say other lifetimes or
Hmm.
alternate realities, or you could just say, okay, if you don't want to go in that direction, you could say it was dormant capacities that was within me.
Hmm.
Study that stuff in a book, not in
Hmm.
this lifetime anyway. So every person has dormant capacities,
Hmm. Yes.
credible gifts that are
Yeah.
waiting to be accessed. But the way they get accessed is through energetic attunement.
Hmm.
And yes, one has to break through their frequency fences of fear, worry,
Right.
doubt, skepticism, cynicism, disbelief, right?
Hmm.
Uncertainty. Those are all the fear-based frequencies
Hmm.
of that old paradigm, that closed matrix. Of course, we lived in fear. We were
Hmm.
separate from God. We didn't, there's no, you know what I mean? But in this new paradigm where we start unifying,
Hmm.
there's no fear. There's nothing to, it's glorious. It's the divine glorifying.
And that's why the body changes when we hold more light, because all of that, we've just been in a state. And then
Yeah.
when you hold the light, all of that can be activated. And
Yes.
then we realize just how restricted we've been,
Yes.
living sort of in that fishbowl where we think that this is it. We've been told we can't have this when we're kids because we can't afford it, or, whatever. And,
Yeah.
other limitations that we've learned as kids, or grown up with, along the way through relationships and everything. And
Yeah.
then when we realize what's really important, and that's living and thinking with our heart,
Yes.
things just take on a whole different perspective all the way
Yeah.
around.
Yeah.
And then miracles will happen though with your body, with your life, and everything that you
Yeah.
want.
Yeah, I mean, I would love, because I know we have a break in a few moments, but I would love to talk a little bit because you mentioned on the money thing, because like so many people are living right now in a state of not enoughness. They don't have enough money. They feel like they can't afford things. But you see, when you start opening your channel and the
Hmm.
divine starts working through you, your
Hmm.
relationship to all things, especially money and other people,
Hmm.
even animals, nature, completely transforms for the better
It's
so
the
much.
truth. Preach, preach. It's
It's
the
so
truth.
true.
Abundance takes on a different format too. It's not just money. It's
Yes.
you're abundant in all ways. Okay, you're right. We're getting ready to go to a break. Tell people how they can find you.
Oh, my website is lorispagna.com, LORISPAGNA.com. And of course, I have a YouTube channel. I have a
Yeah.
podcast, the
Mhm.
Awakened Elevated Human Podcast. And there's lots of, they can get DNA activations at lorispagna.com,
Wow. Okay.
lorispagna.com/, free gifts forward
Okay.
slash DNA.
Okay.
They can also learn how to work with crystals over there. LoriSpagna.com/, free gifts / crystals. And they
Okay.
can learn about how to help animals and
Okay.
communicate telepathically with animals. LoriSpagna.com / free gifts / animals.
Beautiful.
There's
Okay. And
lots
then
more to it.
Spirit
It's a good
Fest,
place to start. Yes.
spiritfestusa.com, and then all of the information about the show and Lori's special appearance this upcoming weekend is on our website. So people can go there, and we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back in a few minutes with more great conversation. Join us for Spirit Fest Sarasota, April 24th and 25th at the Sarasota Fairgrounds inside Robards Arena. You'll find the best psychic readers, holistic practitioners, natural products, lots of crystals, aura photography, and so much more. Doors open at 10 a.m. each day with free parking and food available on site. Speakers run all day each day, included with daily admission. There are also special workshops like a singing bowl workshop and a light language workshop. Meet special guest Lori Spagna, a best-selling author, teacher, Ascension guide, Multidimensional Channel, who will be offering a talk free with admission on Saturday and a special Channeling with the Collective event on Sunday. All details are on our website, spiritfestusa.com/Sarasota. There is also discounted admission available on our website. We look forward to seeing you there. Welcome back, everyone, to the Sanctuary for Mind, Body, and Spirit. We're back here with the next segment of our show with our special guest, Lori Spagna. She is a multidimensional channel, energy healer, light worker, visionary, luminary. She is all these things, and author, teacher, and we're glad to have her with us. And we were talking in the last bit about abundance, about how when we follow our passion and joy, when we are able to bring in the light, when we can hold more light, we just have a different paradigm on everything, and how that affects our body, how a lot of different things will shift, but also about abundance. So tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah. Well, what happens at first, you do start to look at abundance differently, which I hear you, like everything you're saying, it's clear you already get that, right? Like everything is abundant, and you just start recognizing that all of reality is absolute abundance, even if it's, any form of abundance that you might not necessarily want or
Mm-hmm.
desire. But what really happens too is your ability to prosper shifts because you start
Mm.
understanding, and also the structure of the universe starts working for you. So I want to talk about both of these things independently. Your ability to prosper shifts because you start recognizing as you shift, as you allow more of the divine or the Holy Spirit or divine light, divine consciousness in and through you, you start recognizing. I mean, you start shifting from belief systems to knowing. So you know you're here for a reason. You have a reason to be here,
Mm-hmm.
and you're doing what you're meant to do. And because that becomes more and more true for you, you also understand that the Holy Spirit, the divine, and all of its energetic frequencies are going to provide for you
Mm-hmm.
because you're at one with all that is. You start shifting into this recognition. There is no separation.
Mm-hmm.
You're at one, and every need of yours will be met because Source Creator God has you here, aligned with your true mission, purpose, reason for being here, which isn't necessarily just a job.
Hmm.
It could be a gazillion things.
Hmm.
It could be whatever's uniquely right and appropriate for each individual, for any individual. But you're here with that reason. It's your joy, it's your fulfillment, and you're just prospering because as you're playing your role in God's plan, fulfilling your role in God's plan,
Yes.
prosperity is happening for you,
Hmm.
serving you so that you can do your right work. And
Yes.
you're doing it because you're joyfully delivering.
Hmm.
You're joyfully in service and contribution. You shift from worry and doubt to this kind of certainty and knowing
Hmm.
that
Yep.
this is what you're here for. You're going to be provided. There's nothing that you're not, if you're not meant to do something, then it's not something you'll be called to. It's not something that
Right.
your heart's saying. So there's that part. And then also when I talk about the structure of the universe, what really is going on is there are so many ways that the order and structure of the universe, which by the way correlates with universal law,
Hmm.
different universe laws of physics.
Hmm.
This structure of the universe starts to work with you. It becomes you're like in collaboration with this
Hmm.
structure, which is divine consciousness too.
Hmm.
So for example, when you're working in this new elevated way and embodying this light, you understand these laws that if you're putting service out there, law of compensation is going to compensate you.
Yes.
Or if you're contributing something in the world that's meant to be contributed, the cause and effect dynamic of that is what you give out is going to somehow be returned to you equal to or greater than. Or law of synchronicity is going to organize and synchronize so that every need you have comes to you. So let's say
Right.
you have to buy, like you have to pay rent on a location or something to host an event, for
Hmm.
example, just an
Hmm.
example. The law of synchronicity may deliver it to you in such a way that somebody who owns that space will say, "Hey, I just love having you here. Don't
Hmm.
worry. I'm gonna, not ask for rent from you." Or
Hmm.
10
Hmm.
people come by and they donate.
Right.
It's
Right.
not like even the same way. But what is important to understand in this topic of prosperity and divine prosperity is that this reality, old paradigm, new paradigm, it's still energetic. It's all about energy exchange. So you can't steal from somebody. That's old paradigms. You could steal
Hmm.
thinking that you could steal from somebody and that you wouldn't be stolen back from. Like that doesn't
Hmm.
work.
Right.
Right. So
Hmm.
you're only about like contributing in this new paradigm. How can you contribute for the greater good?
Right.
Understanding that everything's based on energetic exchange and
Hmm.
inflow and outflow, a sharing. It's synchronicity, it's
Hmm.
symbiosis,
Hmm.
it's, this kind of divine union, the structure of how this universe works.
Hmm.
You're not moving, you're not in the world in fear. You're like coming from this state of consciousness that you're in union with what you're
Yes.
here for.
Yeah.
And by the way, you start to have new mindset shifts too. For example, you
Yeah.
start recognizing like there's more paper dollars than have ever been before. There's more
Hmm.
gold than there has ever been. There's been more, there's like more of all form. Now there's now
Hmm.
electronic currencies and there's like cryptocurrencies and there's all kinds of forms of energetic exchange.
Right.
And so you're no longer functioning from lack and limitation, which is part of that old paradigm,
Hmm.
that
Yes.
closed system. The
Yes.
closed system taught if I take from somebody, somebody else doesn't have enough. But that's
Right.
not how it works. That's
Right.
the structure of this reality works. The structure of this open source is that there's always more, it's always flowing.
Hmm.
There's always new avenues, new ways, new potentials,
Hmm.
new
Yes.
possibilities. And
Yeah.
your job, in a sense, becomes to stay in that state of oneness with this source and to continue to keep your own channel. And
Yes.
I love to talk about that some more too, but open so this source can flow in and through you
And
in
that's a
beautiful, glorious.
process that I think sometimes we overthink. Maybe I'm just speaking about myself, but I hear other people tell me their stories that we want to find our purpose in life, or really just overthink everything. And from my many years of experience, I think it's just literally being happy, that we just living and doing what makes us happy, following our passion, following the creativity, that we enjoy, and then everything will be provided for when we do that. And then that makes that easier for that for us to open the channel, so to speak. But it's a process. And then
Yeah.
also, I think sometimes we worry too many things are going to fall away, that we'll lose
Yeah.
relationships or things like that. And then again, we overthink that. And
Yeah.
then sometimes unlearning, for example, a lot of us were brought up in a religion and having to say, well, maybe that doesn't serve me now like it used to, that's a hard thing. But, and again, just looking at it in the best way, it doesn't mean that you might not ever go to church again or follow your religion, but it might be that you just have a different relationship with it.
Yeah.
And again, just being fearless and going in there.
Yeah. Well, a couple of things if I could elaborate and share in what you're sharing. First, just that part of like that joy and following our bliss and being happy
Hmm.
is, I absolutely agree wholeheartedly. Like that's always going to be the next step that takes you even deeper into or greater into, more of your true trajectory, whoever you
Hmm.
are, like
Hmm.
following your joy, choosing a state of happiness
Hmm.
and choosing to see and perceive through the lens of what feels good and right to you and positively uplifting for you, always ideally with harm to none, right?
Hmm.
Your
Hmm.
joy isn't going to be harmful to another. You're not
Right.
poo-pooing on another. You're saying, oh my God, this feels so good. I'm going to pursue that. I'm going to go down.
Hmm.
I totally agree with that. And I will say that was how it started for me too, like deciding to become a dog trainer for me at that time. That was like,
Hmm.
I was so miserable in corporate America. I was going to
Hmm.
just pursue what I believed was going to be my highest fulfillment. I had no idea that it was going to lead me where it has.
Right.
So that is definitely so important. But there are also things that are, and then I want to speak to that topic of like sometimes we have to let things go and religion,
Hmm.
but I just want to say there are things we have to do to prepare the body
Hmm.
because it's not just a brain thing.
Hmm.
Because the brain will say that's what you said earlier, Mary Ellen. You were like, sometimes the brain is thinking so much. You're saying something like that. I'm
Hmm. Hmm.
reinterpreting, but um it's true because we have been trained in this closed system to overutilize our brain.
Hmm.
And we're mostly utilizing what I call a beta brainwave,
Yeah.
which is always
Hmm.
overthinking, monkey mind, thinking, 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 overanalyzing, wondering, worrying, doubting. And so, part of the way we literally have to change ourselves, and every person has to ask themselves, are they willing?
Yeah.
We have to really develop more of our capacity to use different brainwave frequencies
Hmm.
because they all do different things. So, for
Hmm.
example, light meditation, light prayer, breath, when we pray or when we lightly meditate or, just contemplate silently, like overlook the ocean, the
Hmm.
beach. That's an alpha brainwave that helps the nervous system, that restores homeostasis, that
Hmm.
gets us out of fight, flight, worry, doubt.
Yes.
So we have to access that brainwave and know how to do it. Theta brainwave will allow us to have direct conversation with angels,
Hmm.
guides, our
Hmm.
higher self,
Hmm.
our divine team. We have to be able to know how to access that. And then even when you start to access delta brainwave in a conscious way, you will get great guidance through your dreams. You'll be able to have more ability to utilize your dream state
Hmm.
and to understand that the dream state is a non-physical realm where you can actively participate in a conscious way while still getting the
Hmm.
best night's sleep ever,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So it's important to be able to, then gamma, when I'm channeling, I'm using a gamma brainwave. If you
Hmm.
really want to go far, learning how to use that brainwave will
Hmm.
help you to connect to other beings who are here also.
Hmm.
Depending on who you want to connect with, I only connect with beings who serve the light, which to me
Right.
is God's will
Right.
for lighted creation. We're all part of lighted creation. But there's other things we have to do too. We have to be able to bring both hemispheres
Hmm.
of our brain into coherence. We are not operating in a conscious way as humans utilizing both hemispheres in a
Hmm.
coherent way. There are practices that we actually can do this.
Hmm.
We can do it, but it's
Hmm.
not something we've ever been taught in school system.
Hmm.
Western medicine doesn't know how to do it. They haven't, there's no profit in it for big pharma. It's not
Yeah.
just not taught.
Yeah.
So we have to know how to activate our third eye, which this is just the master glands in the center of the brain that
Hmm.
these brain the pineal and pituitary glands, they
Hmm.
allow for extra sensory abilities because
Hmm.
otherwise, how can we really truly know that we are working with the Holy Spirit? We
Right.
can only once this is so you won't be able to do that in mainstream. This is why, again, Spirit Fest, this is a place where you can learn. You can
Hmm.
learn how. We also have to be able to activate what's called the heart portal or the brain matter in the heart. There
Hmm.
literally is brain matter in the heart.
Yep. It's a thinking organ. Hmm.
Yes, there is. This is scientific, there's
Hmm.
brain matter in there. It has to be activated because then you start utilizing more of your greatest gifts, divine love, divine
Hmm.
compassion, divine empathic sensitivity, divine care,
Hmm.
divine nurturing, divine peace, divine grace. These are energies that they cannot be accessed through the brain. I'm sorry, they
Hmm.
cannot. They are
Yeah.
not brainwave frequencies. They are heart frequencies. And
Hmm.
they start to come through your heart portal when you activate this. And if I say this to some people, they'll be like, what the hell is she talking
Yeah.
about?
Yeah. It's a
Because
legitimate organization, heart math. It's a whole
yes,
science, a
yes,
thing. And I can attest to that. I had
yeah,
heard of it and somebody explained to me about how to think with my heart. And I said,
yes.
how? And she said,
I was in some of their studies.
really?
Nodes on me and how quickly could
Uh-huh.
I get into heart coherence and how quickly could I, switch between brainwave patterns. Yeah, it's pretty
And
cool.
the first time that you do it and you're aware of it, it's really amazing.
Yeah.
And then when you do, just like you described, you go right past all this. And
Yes.
then you just go right into it. And then it's just accessing the reaches of your brain. But I was able to give a talk. I had prepared a whole, like an hour and a half class and left the notes at home.
Uh-huh.
And just going through my heart, I literally went through the whole thing.
That's so
It
awesome.
just,
Right.
because it just gets everything out of the way.
Because
It,
those notes were already in the field of consciousness, you
right,
see?
right.
And
Yeah.
in my psychic development class for years, I would teach people how to read books without having
Uh-huh.
to read the book.
Right.
And
Yeah.
they wouldn't know the book and they could summarize what was in the
Hmm.
book.
Hmm.
I mean, okay,
We
it's not like it's not great for a fiction story, but you can still know the story.
The sanctuary for mind, body, and spirit was actually first a physical location. It was a store, and we had two little rooms that were attached to it for meeting space. So it was more than a store, more than a meeting place. But there was a couple people that would come in and they would kind of brag that they would buy the books and they would sleep with them under their pillow. And I didn't really want to recommend that for everybody, but I did know what they were talking about.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
fun.
that's
I mean,
yeah.
this is the thing. You have so many dormant capacities, so many dormant abilities. When we were talking about that, some of the other things is like the chakra systems are typically, people sort of in Western medicine just totally disregards them, and yet they know
Mhm.
that this is an energy center. They know
Yeah.
that
Mhm.
this is an energy center. Like these energy centers, and when they're blocked, energy centers, there's disease in the body. So
Right.
the energy centers need to be cleared, and
Hmm.
when they're cleared, this is when the divine can flow through.
That's where I feel
Divine
like
can flow
sound healing
into
is
the
kind of ahead
body.
of its time. That if Western medicine would understand, I know they use percussion therapy to heal some injuries, but if they would use more of the tones to be able to balance
Yeah.
those chakras and the energy centers, I think we'd be
Yeah.
so much further ahead. But that's why.
It's coming. It's coming. It just won't happen through traditional mainstream
Hmm.
educational medicine
Hmm.
because that is designed for profit. But as we're evolving,
Right.
as that system, the old system starts to be restructured by human free will choice,
Hmm.
human consciousness, humans who really say, I don't really care if the system says I can't do this. I'm
Hmm.
going to incorporate this into my practice because I know it helps people. It
Yes.
helped me. Maybe they had some kind of catalyst. And then they share their findings with other open-minded
Hmm.
doctors, medical experts, holistic practitioners, etc.
Yeah.
Because you can't deny progress when really heart-centered people who really want to help other people really do
Hmm.
care. That's also why it's so important to start doing this work because
Yeah.
as we start to embody really caring, that can only happen through the heart chakra. That doesn't happen
Hmm.
through the brain.
Right.
Really wanting to be of service and contribution.
Hmm.
We don't care if some false authority says you're not allowed to do that when we know
Yeah.
there's lots of evidence of people who are getting healed by toning or sound
Hmm.
baths or, you
Yeah.
know, EMF technology, or some kind of
Hmm.
new Tesla technology, like Rife technology. These are all healing devices
Yeah.
that Western medicine and like the Rockefellers Foundation, the American Medical Association, when it was formed, they just wanted, it is in their documents. Like you can find them online. They just wanted to discredit everything that
Hmm.
was in competition with traditional mainstream medicine. And they started with chiropractic back then.
Oh, yeah.
They just
Yeah.
systematically discredited everything, which is why so many people don't believe in this stuff. But more and more people are doing it. More and more amazing technologies are starting to be released,
Hmm.
and you just can't deny progress.
Yeah.
You know? And
It's the
that
truth.
also, I hope it's okay. I love these conversations, you know.
Uh-huh.
It's also the same kind of thing with religion. God, the true God of lighted creation, like the one true God, whether you identify that God through your unique learning, whether that's, Hebrew or, Roman Catholic or Muslim, whatever your learning is, Buddhism, whatever it is that's right and appropriate for you, that's fine. Like you can have whatever beliefs, whatever feels right for you, what helps
Hmm.
you. But know this, that the true God is not here to divide and conquer,
Right.
is
Yes.
not here to promote war, suffering, and fighting.
Yeah.
The true God has made a decree for
Hmm.
humanity.
Hmm.
This is what I call the agenda of the light, that humanity shall prosper and thrive
Hmm.
and reclaim our divine birthrights to
Yeah.
know ourselves as all part of this one true God that is beyond love.
Hmm.
It's so beyond gender. So I understand I'm not here to push someone's beliefs. Everybody has to find their unique, intimate relationship
Right.
with the God of their knowing and
Yes.
the God of that works for them and whatever that is. But what I do know is that old closed system was not allowing that. So
Yeah.
many of our old documents were either, manipulated or somehow sometimes affected for power, domination, control.
Hmm.
And it's up to us to make choices now, what feels right for us. And everybody does ultimately have to make the choices about what they're going to believe and
Right.
experience for themselves, right? Because God
And
will
it,
not be denied. God will not be denied.
and it's such a different time, even since the pandemic. I
Yeah.
just feel like we're at a different place. That's when people started to really go within. That's when they also started really to appreciate being with other people. How many people now, especially younger people, don't have one job? They might have three part-time jobs, all
Mm.
doing little things that they enjoy.
Yes.
And again, this the paradigm has completely changed.
Yeah.
And I see people of all ages. I love seeing even multiple generations of families come to the shows and that they're sharing that with each other because everybody wants everybody to be happy,
Yes.
and then also, to have everything that we need and want.
Yes.
But just following that joy, even if at the time we couldn't go out and go to church or things like that, but just following and trying to remain out of fear. It's not always easy, especially now where things seem so chaotic in our
Mm.
world.
Mm.
But like you said, it's all happening for a reason. We don't even really need to know what is going on. It's just staying in that highest vibration, knowing that the universe is preparing everything in a way. There's really great order in the world. That's one thing I'm very
Yes.
sure of.
Yes.
And that's our job, is just to be happy. Is
Yes.
just to hold that light and to do what makes us happy. And if we're unhappy about something, don't focus on that. Focus on where you are looking to be, and then
Yeah.
not worrying about how to get there. So, um,
Yeah, I mean, I love what you just said about, it's being taken care of because this is what I'll go back to that, the structure of this reality, that I call it's divine architecture.
mhm,
It's
mhm,
made of energy and consciousness.
mhm,
And that might seem so strange, but that structure is divinely orchestrated and purposeful. So when you start aligning with that structure, really you understand like law of synchronicity is organizing everything perfectly. Law, like God put those laws here, those energetic, it's architecture to support us as we go through this transformation. So it's really, even though it does seem like there's chaos out there in the physical world, it's quite easy, actually. Well, yeah, it is quite easy to learn how to anchor inside the center core of your being so that no matter what, that's the chaos out there is just representation of what is no longer part of this divine architecture.
Right.
It's got to collapse. It's not part of, it's no longer part of what is meant to come forward into this new open source system. So this open source system where we are able to unify with our source, the divine, and I mean, bring in, anchor in divine peace, divine harmony, divine grace. Then from the center core of your being, from within you, you are at peace. You feel like right now, I just close my eyes. I'm instant. I can feel it. So the chaos in the external world doesn't ever rattle me because I understand I'm part of the solution.
Right.
I'm here to be of service and contribution to those who have not found their way yet in recognizing that crumbling that's taking place is a necessary part of this transformation. Because those old systems that were based on a closed system, they really do need to collapse. They're just not serving the greater good. Those systems were based on service to the few, to the harm and detriment of the many.
Yes.
And this is what it means when the Bible says the meek shall inherit the earth. We are the ones who are recognizing you don't need to be rich, famous, man, woman. It doesn't matter who you are, what your religion is, race, where you live. It does not matter. God will not be denied. All you need to do is have that choice. It is my choice, my free will choice. We have to be able to make our free will choice to reclaim sovereignty as individual beings who have dominion over our bodies, our beings, our mind, our emotion, our free will to unify with our source, the spark, the flame, the divine, and to the Holy Spirit, and to recognize that through that union, we're the meek reclaiming our rightful place here on earth and with God. And through that reclamation and the remembrance and the reawakening of all of this consciousness that's available to us now, we're the ones inheriting the earth. And so the architecture set up for us.
And just putting that out there is going to awaken something in you. If you want to start learning more and start really practicing that, you're going to be given a lot of opportunities. You're going to find the right teachers, and you're going to find the books and the opportunities to practice what you learn in the books. That's a big thing too. So it's about time for us to go to break again. So if everybody will stay with us, we've got another segment with Lori, and we're getting into more great conversation. So LoriSpagna.com is your website, and then find out more about our shows and Lori's special appearance in Sarasota this weekend, spiritfestusa.com. So hang on, everybody, and we'll be back in just a few minutes. Join us for Spirit Fest Sarasota, April 24th and 25th at the Sarasota Fairgrounds inside Robards Arena. You'll find the best psychic readers, holistic practitioners, natural products, lots of crystals, aura photography, and so much more. Doors open at 10 a.m. each day with free parking and food available on site. Speakers run all day each day, included with daily admission. There are also special workshops like a singing bowl workshop and a light language workshop. Meet special guest Lori Spagna, a best-selling author, teacher, Ascension guide, Multidimensional Channel, who will be offering a talk free with admission on Saturday and a special Channeling with the Collective event on Sunday. All details are on our website, spiritfestusa.com/Sarasota, There is also discounted admission available on our website. We look forward to seeing you there. Welcome back to the Sanctuary for Mind, Body, and Spirit, everybody. We appreciate you staying with us through our third segment of our show with our very special guest today, Lori Spagna. And she is a divine channeler, a multi-dimension channel. She's an intuitive, a visionary, and a luminary, and really is assisting people through the ascension process that we're going through now and really helping people to connect to divine source in such a high level way. She's a great teacher and is also going to be joining us at Spirit Fest Sarasota this coming weekend, and more shows I might add throughout the year too. So more to come about that later. Yes. So we were talking a little bit about our DNA activation, and can you tell us more about what's going on in this special time that we're at? You know, because the planet's ascending too.
Yes.
So where do we fit in with all that?
Yeah, well, first, we've been talking about this old closed system that's kind of coming to an end in terms of old paradigm, just the way we've lived and operated. In that system, we only believed that we had two strands of DNA that were active, and science used to call the other 10 strands junk. Now they know it's dormant.
Mm-hmm.
When they were doing Q-tips up the nose, one of the things they were doing was collecting DNA to study it.
Uh,
Is they understand that those other 10 strands are full of every solution
uh-huh.
humanity's problems. Like, so
Mm-hmm.
your other 10 strands of dormant DNA can be activated. So let's just say the first two strands are your genetics and they're your kind of like ancestral story, like what
Mm-hmm.
so somebody says, well, my family lineage has, let's say, breast cancer or, there's diabetes. I call that corrupted DNA.
Mm-hmm.
Why do I call it? Because we're not really meant to age and get sick. It's corrupted because in that old system, we weren't able to flow source energy through us to heal ourselves. We
Mm-hmm.
didn't know how, we didn't think it was possible. So instead, the DNA, we just would take on the wounds and traumas of our parents, our
Mm-hmm.
ancestors,
Mm-hmm.
and then it would imprint in our genetic codes
Yes.
into the DNA. And then we believed we were stuck with it, right?
Mm-hmm.
But epigenetics already knows you can change, turn on, and
Mm-hmm.
even turn off
Mm-hmm.
some of those programs. So you can everything's healable. Everything is healable. So the first two strands of DNA, you can heal those corrupted programs in the DNA through the lineage. You can heal
Right.
it. It's already known. There's so many studies now done. Like when a mother does any form of healing on her children benefit.
Yes.
Like it's passed through. There's studies on fascia even now
Mm-hmm.
about this.
Yes.
So you can heal your lineage just by working with your DNA. But here's what's amazing, even if that's not amazing enough. The other 10 strands, and by the way, there's way more than 10 more strands, but science hasn't found them yet because they're still etheric, non-physical, which means more people need to activate and awaken them in the physical form. When more people activate and awaken it,
Mm-hmm.
eventually science will find it.
Mm-hmm.
Do it in the
Okay.
non-physical, we bring it into the physical, and
Mm-hmm.
it becomes known in the physical. But in any case, the other 10 strands, those strands are holding all your greatest gifts, talents, and abilities.
Mm-hmm.
Those in every individual, they're holding the solutions that you have, whatever you're here to bring on earth. So, for example, when I was working with the codes in my DNA, and I've been doing DNA activations for like 20 years, that was one of the first gifts in Maui that I started doing it. I started doing it with like friends in a small group of like 5 people. Like I
Mm-hmm.
just invite people at my house. I barely knew.
Wow.
And I just start doing them with them. And I'd be like, tell me what happens to you. Like, I don't know how it's going to affect you. And they'd give me feedback and they'd be like, I was up all night writing my book. And I
Uh-huh.
was doing it for my animals, my dogs. I had dogs and other people's animals too when I was working with their animals. And my dog was like, I'll never forget this one time. My dog, she was able to jump like a 6 foot wall.
Wow.
I mean, it was like, how is that even possible? It's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And I was working with a horse who was like lame and he was able to get up. Okay,
Wow.
this is the thing. In 2020, I want to say, I found in the DNA, I found through exploration codes of immunity and imperviousness. I've been
Hmm.
activating those codes in people since then.
Okay.
Codes of immunity and imperviousness will make you immune and impervious to any virus.
I love that.
I sat next to somebody who at that moment I didn't even know he had COVID in
Hmm.
2020. I was hosting a
Hmm.
retreat in Mount
Mm.
Shasta.
Uh-huh.
I had 20 people in the room.
Hmm.
We hadn't done DNA activations in that group yet, but most of the people in the room, except I think two, had done DNA activations with me. So they all had the codes of immunity and imperviousness, except for the
Hmm.
two who had not done them with me.
Hmm.
Those two, not me sitting next to the guy who had COVID, who
Hmm.
was the speaker. And not only the two people got COVID,
Wow.
nobody else in the room. And we were in a
Let
teeny
me
little room.
let's go off topic for just a second. I'm interested what you think about viruses because some people say viruses aren't real. And then COVID was such an unusual virus. I even wondered if there wasn't some benefit somehow. I mean, because there's people that have long COVID or that died, but I can't quite figure COVID out. It was weird.
Well, the thing is, everything is consciousness.
Hmm.
Everything. So a virus is essentially a non-soul, non-corporeal form of consciousness.
Okay.
It's a form of consciousness, but it doesn't have a soul.
Hmm.
And it's a form of energy,
Hmm.
but it's not, doesn't have a body. It's not non-corporeal.
Hmm.
So it's just energetic. So what is that consciousness and that energy meant to teach a human or humanity as a collective?
Right.
That's
Right.
really what we're talking about because
Hmm.
everything that exists is a form of consciousness. So the bigger purpose behind COVID, because of course I asked a lot about that during those
Yeah.
years, was to await. It was initially, if you're willing to go here with me, because it's a little, down the conspiracy rabbit hole, but it was manufactured. I mean, that's
Hmm.
known now, right? That's
Yeah.
that's documented. So we're not
Right.
hopefully not upsetting anyone by saying that. It's fact.
Pretty well known, yes.
Right. Yeah. So it was manufactured, but so it was a tool of the dark agenda
Hmm.
to control, dominate, manipulate, and coerce humans, to force humans, and to keep them stuck,
Yes.
blocked,
Yeah.
limited, and in this old paradigm where it's been closed system.
Hmm.
But once humans, in a sense, consented to it, because free will, most humans unknowingly gave consent by tuning into the TV,
Hmm.
believing what they were being told, letting their fear take over, most
Yeah.
humans, or worry or doubt or whatever was their experience in relationship to it. Then it became, okay, humans have chosen to participate in this game of
Hmm.
the dark. So then the light consciousness said, okay, humans have chosen it. Free will always be honored. That is God's
Hmm.
law.
Hmm.
But how can we use this? So it became a tool that the light used to catalyze the most amount of awakening with
Hmm.
the least amount possible of harm. And we do know, yes,
Hmm.
we're not dismissing the pain and suffering that happened, of course,
Right.
but that was part and parcel of free will choice. I'm
Hmm.
not saying a human consciously or deliberately chose. It's
Right.
not a
Right.
matter of like not loving or having compassion and being so deeply sorry that
Hmm.
that ever took place.
Yeah.
But what
But
I
it was
am
a
saying,
catalyst for
it
sure.
was a catalyst.
Yeah.
And so the virus itself, that was its purpose, to catalyze awakening
Hmm.
and to invite humans to choose, what will your relationship to me be?
Hmm.
Will you choose to recognize your power that is far greater than me?
Right.
That's what I chose. That's how come I discovered those codes of immunity and imperviousness. I was handing them out like candy to people because I was
Right.
like doing free activations. I put it on, it's on my YouTube channel.
Hmm.
People can go to my YouTube channel now. It's never too late to get it. You
I just
just,
love the casual use of the word impervious anyway. So,
yeah, you want that anyway because you want to be impervious to lots of things.
right. Right.
Impervious. We do it now to AI technology. We do it I mean, imperviousness to chemtrails,
Hmm.
artificial, and this is the thing. Okay, sometimes if a person has something like, I don't believe it, or the cynic, the skeptic, they can block it
Hmm.
because your free will overrides.
Right.
But if you're really choosing and you're really willing, and the way we do it, it's only as God wills for you, for your best, zero harm. Like
Right.
this is the energetic structure when we're doing these activations.
Right.
Like, why would anyone ever say no to that?
Right.
So, in any case, but that was the role of the virus.
Okay.
How are you going to relate with me? And understand it was in human consciousness in another way.
Hmm.
Little but weird. You got to be willing to stretch here with me. But
Hmm.
everybody wanted to go viral. They wanted their videos to go viral. They wanted their
Hmm.
social media. So, like, how does
Hmm.
consciousness translate this? You want to go viral? Are you thinking? Are you being conscious of what you're calling into your reality?
Hmm. Yeah.
I know it's a stretch to say that, but this is how consciousness works.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of people that now are able to work from home. I love that you can get food and liquor to go, and you
Yeah.
didn't, it's a lot easier now than it ever used to be.
Yeah,
There
for
is,
sure.
some positive things, and like you said, that there were people that really wanted that, and it did. So again, not to
Always,
focus on,
always. This is
yeah,
such a good thing you just said. Always, always. There's always gifts,
uh-huh,
even in the darkest of the dark. And our job then, as beings who are awakening and choosing to ascend
hmm,
and choosing to anchor into this new paradigm, is, to seek
hmm,
what are the gifts of this experience or dynamic or
hmm,
in the trauma. Trauma always is, even the corrupted DNA, it's storing up
yeah,
gifts of consciousness.
yes,
And gifts of consciousness are lessons learned
hmm,
that turns into wisdom earned. When
yes,
lessons are learned, wisdom is earned, then a human never again needs to repeat or perpetuate a dark experience.
hmm,
Trauma is resolved.
yes,
And includes family struggles. I mean,
yeah.
listen,
Not just for you, but for your kids and maybe
oh
even your
God,
parents.
yes. Just so you don't realize you pass it through the
Yeah.
bloodlines and
Uh-huh.
everyone benefits. I was listening on a coaching call the other day, and it was like, very what I call 3D, very brain coaching. But the woman who called in for the coaching, it wasn't my call, I was listening.
Hmm.
The woman who called in had all these like family problems and pain with her family, and just so much upset and so much betrayal. And you could hear her deep pain and how she felt like isolated and separated and so hurt.
Hmm.
And the coach was giving her brilliant information, but it was all coming from the brain, all
Hmm.
from the brain.
Hmm.
It was not going to bypass the trauma, the
Yeah.
pain, the sadness, the grief that the caller was dealing with. And my heart went out to her because she was seeking help that counseling, brain coaching was not going to solve. But
Yeah.
here, what happens is that when you can do really deep energy work where you're bringing source, source can heal.
Hmm.
It transmutes that,
Yeah.
turns it into lessons learned, wisdom
Hmm.
earned, that
Yeah.
that soul never has to go through that kind of dynamic again because the purpose of the dynamic was somehow to serve that soul in her evolutionary growth,
This
right?
is the high level teaching that I'm talking about. Everybody has access to this. Everybody can do it. Everybody can tap into it. And being able to have teachers like you that are actually showing us how to do it. I believe we stood in line to incarnate at this time, that we wanted to be here to be part of this evolution. So, how cool is it that we learn this and then we can share it with people around
Yeah.
us?
Yeah.
Maybe not everybody might be receptive, but you're definitely going to be able to share the gifts. And because you've
Yeah.
been teaching for years. How many years have you been teaching this?
At least 20.
Yeah.
But I will say, like, there's no greater joy for me personally than to be able to share it and then watch how people's lives change.
Hmm. Hmm.
Watch how lifetime, like a lifetime of family struggle is resolved. Watch
Right.
how a relationship that might have ended in divorce can be reconciled.
Hmm.
Watch how parental child relationships are healed. I've had clients and students who had I had a student who had Parkinson's. She couldn't stand up from the couch without falling back. Every doctor, they were just giving her pills. She couldn't
Hmm.
stay awake because they'd make her fall asleep. She called me just to help her walk her dog, teach her how she could walk her dog around the block.
Wow.
Within one session, she was able to stand up, not
Hmm.
fall back on the couch, walk her dog around the block, and get up the stairs. She called
Hmm.
me back. She's like, this was a couple of years later. She called me back. She said, my daughter's moving cross country. I want to be able to get on a plane and help her move in to
Hmm.
college, to her
Hmm.
college dorm. We did another 4 sessions. I think it was four. I mean, she got on a plane. She traveled cross country from California to Boston. She said
Hmm.
she walked 7 blocks with her daughter through the city of
Wow.
Boston, helped her daughter move it. That is I had one of my clients who's still with me. She does all my retreats. She does the DNA activations. But the way we started working so many years ago, she was this, I mean, she speaks about this. There's a testimonial of her on my YouTube.
Hmm.
She was supposed to get a hysterectomy. She did 3 sessions with me. She bought a package of four. So when we first started working together, she did 3 sessions. She right before the pre-op, she went to the doctor for the pre-op. She said, "We're not going to go against anything the doctor said." I said, "Great. I don't want to go against what the doctor says. Let's just see
Hmm.
what we can
Right.
do to help." She calls me from the pre-op. She says, "The doctor wants to know what you did. I no longer need a hysterectomy."
That's fantastic.
I mean, I
Uh-huh.
healed the woman, and I'm not the healer.
Right.
God's the healer.
Hmm.
But we all can do this. Everything's healable. A woman who had breast cancer, we healed. No
Wow.
breast cancer, totally recovered. Oh, it's just on. I can go with so many. I can tell you, this is the gifts of this because life transforms. And yes, how many of my students have gone on to become amazing gifted healers
Hmm.
and set up businesses. And, so many of my students have gotten spontaneous light language,
Hmm.
a light language, and they use that for healing. They've gone on to be readers of their own, intuitives, animal communicators, and they're making a difference in the world and they're doing what they love.
Yeah.
This
So
is,
being able to connect in that way, like you said, having that open channel to source, it affects every area of your life.
it really does.
It's just making that. So I was going to ask you to channel, but we don't have enough time, believe it or not. We could talk for another 2 hours, I think. But you are going to be offering a channeling at Spirit Fest this weekend, but first on Saturday. So you'll be there. Both
Yes.
days, people can meet you, talk with you, learn more about what you do. But Saturday, you're giving a free talk at 1 o'clock, and it's included with admission. When I say free, it's included with admission. All of the details are on our website, Spirit Fest USA. Look for the tab for the Sarasota show. But then you're doing a very special channeling on Sunday with the collective.
Yes.
So can people ask questions during the
Yeah.
channeling
Well,
or
let me say, we have a little bit of time, right? We have
yes.
okay,
We've
good.
got about 8 minutes, yeah.
Okay, good. So the collective, I just want to define who they are. They are beings who serve the light. I only work with beings who serve the light.
Hmm.
I've learned over the years, like in the earliest years when I was waking up in Maui, I had a lot of beings who would come to me and say, "Hey, let me come through your body and speak." And I'd be like, "No,
Hmm. Hmm.
can't hijack my body."
Hmm.
But over the years, I would learn like, oh, this is the frequency of this. These are the angelics. What are they here for? What's their purpose? Or this is the frequency of ascended masters, Jesus, Mother Mary, Mary
Hmm.
Magdalene. This is the frequency of different kinds of animals. Every animal, every being has a frequency, a light, a sound, a sensation. So
Hmm.
I could identify like who are these beings, and over time, I was able to just merge and unify with them at a frequency, right? It's all
Hmm.
frequency, it's all energy and consciousness. So the beings that I channel, they just come through as a collective, but they all serve the light, which means they serve God's plan for
Yeah.
lighted creation. They must be
Yeah.
in service to the light. Otherwise, they don't get any admittance. They're not even at
Yeah.
that, can't even access. So when
And, and then galactics, right?
there's
Because
subgroups of galactics too.
we talk a
Um,
lot on this channel about contact is coming, open contact in the
yeah,
next year or so, where we're going to be finding out that we've been working together all along,
yes.
which I'm
Yeah,
very ready
the
for.
ones that I serve typically identify as the fleet.
Okay.
They do not identify as things like but they are intergalactic beings.
Right.
And yeah, they can talk, they'll talk a lot about that if they're asked. And yeah, people will be able to ask questions. So
Okay.
most of my channeling is just to find out what do people in the group want to know. They
Uh-huh.
ask a question or they can ask questions, and then channeling what comes through is what the group's asking for. And
Okay.
usually I can also channel like other people's higher self.
Hmm.
So when there's something a particular individual's working on, like just 2 weeks ago, I was at Unity Church. I love Unity Church.
Uh-huh. Me too.
And I go there all the time. I'm there every week. A woman came to the circle and she's really struggling, like burnout, overload, physical exhaustion, immunity issues. And I mean, I just went into channeling for her. And within a week, she came back the next week. She's like, she's so recovered. She's like feeling so much better because of what the channeling and the guidance she got and the
Hmm.
healing. 1 week.
Hmm.
I was so happy for her that she was doing so much better. But yeah, you can ask questions and get guidance, it's just incredible what comes through because again, they're all here to
Right.
serve, support, and assist us on our journey, whether it's healing,
Mhm.
whether it's guidance we need, whatever it is. So yeah.
Mhm. So the channeling is tailored to the attendees, to the people that are
Yes.
there. So,
Yes.
but this is a unique opportunity to be able to work with you in that regard, to be able
Yes.
to experience the channeling live too. But then
Yeah.
do you talk or do you teach a little bit too about
Well,
doing
what usually what happens is it's never scripted. It's
that?
it's always based on, the group and what the dynamic, but there's always transmission, like
Hmm.
there's energy transmission. So before we even go into the channeling, I just get people to help them to understand, okay, you're in an alpha brainwave, you're in a theta brainwave.
Hmm.
So they're in a space where they can really receive
Hmm.
energy, transmission, healing
Hmm.
from the divine, whether it's Jesus, angels, archangels, choirs of angels who do healing, whomever it is
Hmm.
that's coming through, they'll bring transmission and healing. And
Hmm.
people really, you can feel it for yourself. It doesn't just feel good.
Hmm.
It's activating and awakening you in a way you're fully conscious.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yet it's just such a totally different state of being,
Hmm.
direct experience. So there is channeling, but there's also energy healing and attunement. We call that attunement. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. So this
And
is a very
sometimes
special.
downloads, right? Because,
Uh-huh.
sorry, the first night where we are talking about meditation and mindset, that's usually what we call download. So source might be giving us new information. For example, if you're a person who's kind of like walking around thinking you don't matter or you're not loved or
Hmm.
nobody loves you, or you might be, people have this, right? There's
Yeah.
no wrongness. You might be
Yeah.
thinking, oh, there's not enough, you don't have enough money. Source will
Yeah.
reprogram with your free will. Only free will
Uh-huh.
always reigns supreme
Yeah.
to reprogram, repattern the way you're thinking, what you're believing to align with absolute truth.
Hmm.
Because God's truth is absolute truth. So
And
if you're
that's
thinking,
Saturday. I'm
yeah,
sorry.
sorry, no,
That's
I'm going
Saturday
on.
at 1 o'clock. And
Yes,
the talk that's included with admission. So
yes.
I would recommend come early. The speaker's room seats 50. So I
We're
think
gonna have
that's going to
standing
be,
room only.
yes, exactly. But we, believe it or not, we're out of time.
Mm.
So LoriSpagna.com to find out more about Lori, to be directed to her YouTube channel. And there's a lot of resources on there. And SpiritFestUSA.com. There's a tab for the Sarasota show, and all the details about it are there, including discounted admission through Friday. So we hope everybody will join us this weekend. But thank you, everybody who's watching and listening. For this has just been a great show, and I hope that we can do this again.
Oh, it's my
Um,
pleasure. Thank you so
yeah,
much for
yeah,
having
I
me.
look forward to that. So thank you, Lori,
So
and thank you,
excited for
everybody.
Spirit Fest. Yes.
Yes. All right. We'll see you soon. Bye bye. Thank you for spending this time with me here on the Sanctuary Network. Tune in every Wednesday at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern on the Transformation Network as we gather to share stories, wisdom, and practices that remind us of something essential. Sanctuary isn't just a place you go, it's a space you create in your heart, your home, and your daily life. I hope today's conversation sparked something in you, a sense of belonging, a new idea, or simply a reminder that you are not alone on this journey. If this touched you, please share it with someone who could use a little light. Together, we can grow this circle of sanctuary and inspire a ripple of healing around the world. And don't forget, the journey continues at spiritfestusa.com, thesanctuarynetwork.com, and naturalwellnessexpo.com. And of course, every week right here on Transformation Network. Until next time, may you be well, may you be inspired, and may you live fully in sanctuary.